In this last week, I sold the engine, which was great because the cash was more than enough for me to buy the least expensive Tesla small drive unit I could find for sale. Unfortunately, it was quite a long drive away from me, but I had a friend who lived a lot closer. He volunteered to go pick it up for me, and then instead of just a long drive, I had an excuse to visit a friend and bring back an electric motor. Some people are just like, now, these motors don't weigh a ton. They're probably like around 200 pounds or so. Still, it's always nice to have a friend who has a forklift. That looks a lot easier than carrying it. That's good. We strapped it down to a pallet in the back of my car, and then I made the long drive back home. Of course, at home, it's nice to have my own little mini forklift strapped to the back of my 1970s GE electric Electrac lawn and garden tractor. And as I'm wrestling this over onto my hydraulic cart table, I got transmission fluid coming out. So apparently the seller did not drain this. There is a fill and a drain over here, so maybe I have the right size socket. Hey, look at that, 5/16. On the magnetic drain plug, there was some debris on here, and frankly, I'm not a transmission guy. I don't know if this is typical or atypical or what. It's not a whole lot of material, so I'm going to just have to say to myself right now that this is what's expected for a 10-year-old car that has never had its transmission fluid changed. After cleaning off the plug, I then, of course, reinstalled it. Now I could get the drive unit into my garage to start to work on it, and the very first thing I did was void the warranty. That's right, on the side there's this orange plug. When you pull the sticker off, it says void all over the place, but it also reveals two bolts that hold this orange plug in. So I used a 8mm socket to pull these bolts out. Then the plug itself can be pulled out. This is the cover for the phase wires, and I need to disconnect the inverter from the phase wires of the motor to get the inverter off. But when reassembling it, make sure not to accidentally lose a bolt in there. I just used my power driver to remove all of them. Next, the cover just needed a gentle pry. That came off way too easy, and I don't have any spot to set it down. Make sure to support the inverter. Then on the inside, there are two connectors to unplug. The top blue one here, a bunch of wires, just unplug that. And then that gives the room to kind of swing the inverter open to get at the other connection down at the bottom. I kind of had my hands full, so I ended up kind of leaning the inverter up using a screwdriver to unplug that connection. Here's our Tesla inverter. And with the inverter pulled off, very cool looking in there. Everything clean and shiny. So just when opening it up, Need to unplug that and unplug that. Pre-built open inverter board for the Tesla small drive unit. A couple of stickers. That's cute. Motor stickers, I love it. So I ordered this from Westside EV. Yeah, cool. My invoice. Link to installation video, a pinout, some warnings, wiring diagram. Pre-built wire harness because I suck with little tiny pieces of wire. Okay. Small drive unit logic board. Says version 8, but I don't know what firmware is on here. And you can see how there's the logic board, there's the replacement board, same size and shape. First thing though, I got to get this out of here. Now I'm going to admit that I had a really tough time getting this orange bracket off of the phase wires here. It just really wasn't obvious how to do it. There is a trick to it, and I figured that out when I went to put this all back together. So let's skip to that part to see how it's done. Okay, I finally got the knack for the phase cables. If you look at the notch that's in the orange plastic here, it's open on the front but closed on the back. So this connector has to be forward of this, have the actual cable part go up and in there, and then the terminal part slide back. So if you bend it way forward like this, that gives you the room to get it up in there, get it in the notch, and then slide it backwards. So same thing when you want to take it out, you got to bend it forwards, slide that forward, and then down. Once that orange plastic support bracket is removed, that can just be set off to the side. The phase cables do need to be straightened eventually, just because the board and the bracket have to come out over those cables. There's still a few screws that are mounting the board and the metal bracket down to the inverter. Two of them are through this blue bracket here. That's actually the backside of the data connection to the outside world. And then there's a couple other screws around the outside edge. I need to pop out the connector on the bottom right, as well as removing the zip tie connector from the supporting metal bracket. And the same thing in the upper left, have to remove a connector as well as its strain relief. And then lastly, there's these 3 screws here These basically support the data connection and go right into the aluminum casing of the inverter. Now, in theory, the board should just lift right out, but what you can't see is the multi-pin connector going straight down. I've got it circled here. You might need to pry gently in that area to get those pins to pop out. So now it's time to remove the logic board from this metal backer plate. Unfortunately, I ran out of camera battery right then, so just pretend you saw me remove these 6 screws. So once all the screws were out, there's still the current sensors holding it in, and just kind of have to gently pry them out. And once those are out, so the current sensors were stuck in here and here, but they were potted in place, and the potting that's here is kind of like gelatin. It's rubbery, pretty clear. So even when you pull those sensors out, though, you really got to get in here and like scrape out the extra potting. It seemed to work pretty well to use like a small screwdriver to kind of cut at it, and then using a pretty decent small pliers to just like get in there and keep pulling more and more bits out to make room. So on the new board, it's got 2 current sensors as well. They've got little plastic kind of guides so that those go right down in those holes. You know, line up the screw mounting holes. And as long as those 2 screws are snug and it doesn't feel like the whole board is bowing up or anything, that means those current sensors should be good. So you can actually see right now how they just extend down and they're kind of become part of that ring for the current sensing. And now I'm reinstalling the rest of the screws that hold the open source board down to the metal bracket. Now the other thing that needs to be done is there's a connector that needs to be removed from the original board. You can see here it's this multi-pin connector. It's black, that's the outside, and then blue is on the inside. So that's all our low voltage connections. It is held in around each of these 2 screw holes with 2 little kind of springy fingers. So what seemed to work best was to use 2 little tiny screwdrivers to pry them open at the same time while also pushing down. Worked great on the one side. On the other side, I actually broke off one of the 2 fingers. Go figure. Then once it's loose, the blue connector comes right off, and the black, you just got to pull it straight away. And now we take the open source logic board, flip it over. There's that multi-pin connector. The multi-pins, we put the plastic part over the top of that, making sure it's still keyed to the right direction, and push it down in. There's actually 2 little plastic pegs that go into the circuit board here. So you just want to push it down enough to make sure it's fully seated. Once it is on the other side, the blue plastic clip can go in place, and as long as the black outside part is fully seated, you can squeeze the 2 of these together and those little teeth will snap into place and engage again. So that's our open source logic board mounted up, but now it has to go into the inverter. Start off by putting the board over the two phase cables so that they pass through the current sensor holes. Slide the board the rest of the way down, making sure any little wire connectors are out of the way. And then the other thing to remember is, again, on the back of the board, there's that multi-pin connector. You definitely want to make sure that lines up. Then just gently press down to set the board. And then time to put screws back in. Nothing too exciting, just the reverse of taking everything apart. Then it's time to plug electrical connections back in. And the strain relief. And then the same on the other connector. And then the orange phase cables need to get reinstalled in the orange plastic bracket. We already went over this earlier, so we won't rehash it too much, except to remind you, you just kind of have to bend the cable over to the right flat so that you get some extra length out of it. And then the flat end of the lug can slide backwards into the slot on the plastic. Then it's time to mount the orange plastic bracket. Make sure it's nice and vertical, line up the holes, and install the two screws. Then it's time to reinstall that blue wire harness. Only one of the connectors actually goes to the board. The other two connectors are going to be loose right now because those basically plug into the rest of the drive unit once the inverter's in place. So let's put it on the drive unit. First thing I did was plug in the bottom wire here to the connector. And then before closing this up all the way, I made sure that the orange cables were on the correct side of the tabs that they bolt into. And as I close it up, then I'll have the reach to connect this top connector to the rest of the drive unit. Then I got the inverter in place and held it there by putting two of the bolts in the top. And after that, fully installed the bolts all the way around the perimeter of the inverter. Then I bolted back up the three phase connections. Reinstalled the orange plug cover. And installed the two bolts that hold it in place. So now the drive unit is all back together and ready to get wired up. As I was finishing editing this video, I got this clip from the person who bought the engine, showing they now had it up and running in their 76 high-top adventure wagon. So converting a vehicle to electric doesn't destroy a classic. It actually helps keep more classics on the road.